boxing promoter extraordinaire, Frank Warren. Morning, afternoon, Frank. Sorry, mate.
Hey, chaps, how are you?
Good, Frank. Good. Recovered from the cold weather up in Portman Road that you were pissing and complaining about on Saturday night?
And the rain, but everybody enjoyed themselves.
Absolutely.
It was, they all got into the spirit of things, and we had a really, it was a good card, and it was certainly I thought it was a great main event, very eventful and exciting fight, dramatic.
Yeah. What did you mean? Let's get into that. I mean, Frank, it was a great event. I really enjoyed it. I sat next to Mark Ashton, the chairman of Ipswich, so I think he was bloody relieved that Fabio had won in the end because ultimately he's a hometown boy. But what did you make of the overall fight against Justice? What was your overall views of it all?
I think it actually panned out how both of them said it would pan out at the press conference. You know, Justin said he was going to, use his boxing ability, which he did, and he boxed extremely well. And I've got to just, say that he's a really nice guy as well, lovely guy. He boxed really well. He had end of the first round, he got clipped by Fabio, and Fabio had a really good third round. But other than that, I think he won most of those rounds.
But you're getting worried, Frank, because I saw you jump up around about the 8th round and started barking instructions about throw the right hand and you've got to get him out there.
Well, I could see that for me, what I was watching is that, he's there. You could see that that Uni could be caught with a right hand. That's how I see it. And he just, he wasn't letting him go. And his jab wasn't so good. He was pouring at times with his jab rather than being emphatic and getting his distance. But as he said, Fabio at the press conference, I only need a split second and I can change a fight round. And that's exactly what he did. I ran up, I was a couple of times went to the corner, and I know I shouldn't do that, but I'll get carried away.
Yep.
And I went to the corner and just said to him just before that round, just throw the right hand, forget the jab, just lead with the right hand. You're behind, you can't win the fight on points. He's got, if it goes any further, he's won the fight. You've got to knock him over. And thankfully, that's what he did. But it was, and I'm sitting in between his two promoters, Eddie and
Spencer Brown.
Spencer.
Yeah, I saw you, yeah.
And it was funny, all the way through it, they were saying, oh, he's winning, he's doing this. And I said, yeah, he is winning. But, sometimes you see fights where what you think's going to happen is not happening. It just drifts on and it becomes repetitive. And, Huni boxed extremely well. He's a very good boxer. Thankfully, he's not as big as puncher as he'd probably like to be, but he's a very good boxer. But Fabio done well, and you look at his background. Was it four of those nonsense fights, what do they call them, white collar fights or whatever they call them, and just was it 20 fights as a pro? I mean, it's amazing what he's done and where he's got to, and it's amazing, just after 20 fights that he's selling 22,000 tickets in a football stadium.
Absolutely,
brilliant,
absolutely. Someone else who spoke about it on the weekend was Ben Davidson. Let's have a listen to what Ben had to say about the fight.
Could he have been better in moments? Of course. But at the end of the day, he managed to capitalise on one of the situations he was working on, and that's all it takes. He's a bit like Deontay Wilder. That's how I'd say it. And you have to.
You can equalise a fight in any moment.
You have to game plan towards that and be realistic with that. We're not going to game plan for him to bank rounds and win moment to moment with Justice Huni. It wasn't going to happen. I don't think he got to a point where I thought, I have to pull him out here. There was still moments where there was close calls with situations and shots that Fabio was throwing, and eventually he found it, which, obviously, again, we wasn't expecting to bank rounds, but eventually got there.
Frank, I think that Fabio showed incredible character in there, didn't he? It's not easy for a fighter when you're losing round after round, and it was slowly becoming tougher for him. And I think I said it on the broadcast, actually. I go, there's times there where he had to dig really deep and ask himself questions, but he's one of those rare breed that can stick in there and keep faith. And I think that's a difficult guy to beat.
But he's gritty, he's tough. He's got a natural fighting instinct and ability, and he's got tremendous power. I mean, if he catches anybody, he'll knock him over, and he's got great power. And as I said, the press conference, both what they said at that press conference is how it panned out for them. He was going to rely on his boxing ability, which he did, and was boxing extremely well, Justice, and he was going to rely on finding that split second, and he found that split second and caught him with a tremendous shot. I mean, that was a bloody good shot he caught him with.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
And
look,
you've got to, really, and he's a lovely fellow. He's a great ambassador for our sport. He talks well.
He does.
He's a really nice guy, and I was thrilled for him.
He does. He's very articulate and he's worked very well put together. But the observation that Ben was making, comparing him to Deontay Wilder, does that not cause an element of concern? Because we saw aspects of Justice Hooney, who was technically better than Fabio, and at times made it very difficult for Fabio. Is it not slightly concerning that he's relying only on this equaliser, this knockout power that he's got? Does that not worry a little bit, Frank?
I suppose in some ways it could do, but I look at the fight he had with Frazier Clark, the first fight. I thought he won the first fight, but it was a close fight, and what he learned from that in the second fight, he does learn. That's one thing about him. He's got a good brain. He picks up, and obviously the second fight, he worked on his game plan, and then it was an explosive ending and showed what he's all about. He did the same with David Adelaide. I mean, when you think these guys have got sterling amateur backgrounds, as did Hooney, and he comes through it. It's it is what it is. You're not going to change it. He's not. He is not a. He's not an exponent of the art of boxing.
Technician, yeah.
He's the exponent of the art of hunting them down and knocking them over, and that's what he does. He's done that with 18 out of 19 opponents. He's knocked them spark out. I mean, he's got that ability to do it. And there is that thing about a Deontay Wilder with him. There is that, but Deontay was world champion for 6 years with that ability.
And you'll have that, wouldn't you?
This division is on fire at the moment. There's so many exciting fights to be made, and he's an exciting fighter, and he's in the mix.
I think the comparison with Deontay Wilder is actually a good one, because he relied on his power, but I think Fabio doesn't completely rely on his power. He knows he's got it in there, but he can box a little bit too. But I think something that he's not getting enough credit for was the actual finishing shot. Like, he doesn't have the amateur background, and he's still learning on the game as a pro, yeah. But the way he kind of threw, it was maybe the first straight right hand he threw as well, but he threw his head right off to the side, and it was like a perfect shot, which he's not really getting the credit for. So he's not just a puncher. There's a bit more to him than that.
And he hit him right there, wasn't it? On the, he's such a powerful puncher. But you're right what you say there, Carl. And I don't think he's definitely not a one-trick pony, that's for sure. But he was in with a guy who they'd done their homework. His corner, his trainer done their homework, and they came out and they had a game plan. And that game plan, they stuck to it. And it was working up until the time that he managed to finally let those shots go. I know when he lets that right hand go, and especially when he's fighting someone when who's vulnerable to a right hand, that he can take him out. I mean, he did the same thing, Justice, against Kevin Lorena, who caught him with a great shot, and he overcome that and come back. But I thought under the circumstances and at the stage of the fight and where he was, I think it's exceptional what he managed to do, because a lot of guys would have lost heart. They would have seen that as a lost cause.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Frank, I think Justice Hooney, his stock rose in defeat there because, he was dominating those earlier rounds where, just nicking, and had Fabio on that back foot, but he got taken out there. But he stock rose, didn't it?
Yeah, I agree with that. But he was well in front. I mean, he was well in front on the scorecards. There was no way is there any doubt about that. But he's and again, that's his 12th pro fight. I know he's got a wealth of amateur experience, but he'd done extremely well. And we'd certainly see him and bring him back again, wouldn't you, to fight one of the guys over here? He's a competitor.
So what are you going to do next with Fabio? What's next for him? Obviously, imminent fatherhood, but in the ring, what's next for him?
Well, he's out for a while. He's now the interim champion. He's the WBA interim champion. So, I've said it a few times, 19th of July, we've got the 4 belts on the line between Usyk and Daniel Dubois. That will be the catalyst then for the winner. Whoever wins that is going to have some obligations to defend or make their mandatory defences.
Fabio was on early with me earlier on the show earlier on, and he was sort of indicating that it's likely to be someone like Kubrat Pulev.
He's the WBA regular champion, right?
Yeah. Well, they may order that. I hope they do order that. It'd be another good fight. And and the way the fans come out, I don't know if we can, if we can, this day and age, because the pitches are much better than they were years ago. We might be able to slip that in September or something with the Ipswich again.
Frank, here's a question for you. Do you think, because he's very closely getting a shot at one of the top guys very, very soon. He's highly ranked with the WBA, and that will be the objective, to win a world title at some point. But there's a lot of guys underneath that level that are very, very good, and he'll be needing to fight while he's waiting on a shot. Do you have to match him really carefully now after what you've seen on Saturday night?
Yeah, I was saying, I want to make the, obviously, I'm not going to tell lies. I want him to, the matches I make, I want him to win. But, at that level, sometimes it's very, very difficult because they're all pretty good fighters. So, my job is to make sure that we do sort something out as far as the fights are concerned that are the right fights for him. And we will do that. But he's at a stage now where obviously he wants to earn big money. He's earned the right to be there, and he wants the big purses. And you get big purses going in big fights.
Can I ask you about someone that was sat next to you or just a couple of seats away from you, young Moses Itauma on Saturday night? The rumour mill is spinning around, suggesting that it is going to be Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte, two fighters at different ends of their careers. Can you confirm or deny this in this conversation, Frank?
I can do neither. We are in a position now where we're talking about his fight. I noticed something was put out by Ring Magazine. And I think all will be revealed fairly soon. But Moses is at a stage now where where I feel that he, every fight he's had, we're increasing the quality of the opposition, and he's ready for the next big step up, and it has to be against a recognisable name.
So is this, let me make it a supposition that this is potentially going to happen, and you don't have to comment on it, but is it the kind of fight that you want to see Moses in now?
Yes. Yeah.
And if it were Dillian, what does it say about Dillian? Is it the sort of fight that he would really fancy?
Well, if the fight took place, then obviously he would fancy it.
Do you think it's the right fight for both of these guys at this stage of their careers, Frank? Because they're at the opposite ends of their careers, aren't they? But do you think it makes sense for both guys?
Look, Dillian's in the business. He obviously wants paydays, but he's in he wants another shot at the title, and he wants to get himself into a position to do that. And for him, looking at all the fighters, all the organisations, you look at Moses. Moses is ranked #1 now by the WBO. So if he were to fight Moses, then that puts him in the #1 spot if he were to beat Moses.
Before I let you go, Frank, can I just ask you what the landscape looks like for Joseph Parker? Obviously, a lot of people ruminate on the unfortunate circumstances he seems to find himself in, which is not getting the opportunities that perhaps his recent form has deserved. What's coming up next for him, Frank? What are the opportunities that await him?
He's in a marvellous position. He'll fight in September. Well, I spoke with him I actually spoke with his manager yesterday, and he'll fight in September. We'll have him out in September. Had he have had that fight with Daniel,
yep.
And I believe, let's assume that if he'd have lost that fight, he was fighting for the one belt. If Daniel comes through or Usyk comes through, whoever comes through on that fight on the 19th, as I said earlier, the WBO belt is the next mandatory. He then fights for 4 belts instead of 1.
So he gets the winner, does he, Frank? Is he in line to fight the winner of that fight?
The WBO have ordered that fight. So whatever happens after that, after the 19th, the first mandatory is for the WBO title. So he is in a magnificent position.
So September, Parker out next, and you're saying that will be for the WBO?
No, I'm saying he'll fight in September. It'd be too soon for these guys, the winner of that fight, to fight in September. But in the meantime, he won't want to be sitting.
Do we have any idea who that might be in September, Frank?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
We'll keep us posted.
We're looking at a few guys, but I want to get it done before I announce it.